Yeah. So today's session we will be covering about auto AI. 1 minute. So what do you think auto AI does in IBM Cloud? You know that auto AI is a service in IBM Cloud, right? Yeah, the recording is on. Don't worry. So yeah. So what do you think is auto AI? It is a service in IBM Cloud, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? I need answers. Okay. Yeah. So what do you think does auto AI will do? Okay. What do you think auto AI does? Yeah, can anybody answer? Yeah, auto AI will automate your machine learning model building. Yeah. So generally, during your machine learning project, what are the steps you follow? Yeah. What are the steps you are going to follow during your machine learning project? What is the first step? Yeah. During your machine learning project, what is the first step that you are going to do? Collecting the data, right? Yes or no? Data collection, right? So after data collection, what are you going to do after data collection? Cleaning, right? Cleaning and reprocessing. Okay. So after cleaning and pre-processing, you are going to feed your data to the model, which is nothing but training the model, right? Training the model. Yeah. So after training the model, you are going to deploy. After deploying, you are going to predict, right? So if in these steps, which steps are we going to automate in here in auto AI? Yeah, in let me just number these steps: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So which steps does auto AI automate? Yeah, what do you think? I need answers. So I named the steps, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So which step do you think auto AI automate? So is auto AI going to collect your data for you? Yes or no? So I'll just give the auto AI, like just predict the USA house pricings. Is auto AI going to collect the data on its own? No, right? We have to provide the data. So the first step will be done by us. And the next second step, third step, and fourth step will be done by auto AI, as well as the fifth step. We must give the input and it is going to predict, right? Yes or no? So these are the from 2 to 5, those are the steps that auto AI is going to automate, right? Yes or no? Yeah. See, auto AI is just a quick way of just creating a machine learning model and predicting. So so the thing is, there are pros and cons of auto AI. First, just I'll just going to tell you the steps of how to create an auto AI model. Okay. So yeah, first thing, this is your cloud homepage, right? Your IBM cloud homepage. What are you going to do is you're going to just search for Watson Studio. Yeah, just go to Watson Studio. Okay. After that, see, I've already created an instance of Watson Studio. So let me just go back here. I think in previous videos we've already told you how to create a Node-RED Node-RED book in Watson Studio, right? So after creating, just go to your services. You have Watson Studio. Just click get started here. Yeah, here I've not done any projects right now. So what are we going to do is we are just going to create a new project. Just click on new project, light plan, just select it. Just add the project name here. Just now click on add a storage service. We have already selected it. It is by default, it selected the light plan. Just create the light plan, confirm. Okay, now just refresh this part. Yeah, the new project is done. So everybody is following me till now, right? Yes or no? That's good. So yeah, so everybody understood how to get till here, right? So after getting to this part, just click on add to project. So can anybody guess what are we going to add to project here? Yeah, what are you going to click here? Auto AI, right? So just click on Auto AI experiment. Name, I'm just going to name it auto. So I'm going to just select this instance. I'm going to select the light plan and create. I would prefer that you people select the region London, and I think it is the only region that is available right now. Right, everybody is following until now. Yes, right, good. Yeah, now just click on reload here and you can create a project right now. Yeah, so we are going to add a data source here. I already have a data source here. It is nothing but USA housing. Let's just see the data here. So how many columns does this have? One moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? So let's just predict the price column here in this project. Okay. So I'm just going to drag and drop my data set here. Okay. So after just dragging and dropping, it will ask you, what do you want to predict? So which column do you want to predict? So which column did we choose to predict? Price, right? Yeah. So sometimes when you give a specific data, it may automatically by default sometimes select regression. So at that time you can actually change it here. Just click on experimental settings. One. I think it is not giving us any more options here. So let's just run the experiment right now. Okay. I'll just click on run the experiment. Yeah, I think we can change an experiment option, but for now, let's just go with this. So as you can see, what is it doing in the first thing? It is just splitting the data for training and testing. Holdout data is nothing but testing data. Okay, I'll actually divides the data into three parts. I'll talk about it later. Everybody can see this, right? See, here it is three folds. Three folds is nothing but how many, it is splitting the data into three parts. Okay, so it will be, what will this auto AI will do now is, it is going to select different algorithms. It is going to calculate uh, mean square error values for each algorithm and select the best fit algorithm for this. So generally in our Python code, we are going to just use linear regression, and we'll select the error like root mean square or mean square, right? In this auto way, it is going to select multiple algorithms, and it will going to compare their cost functions. So yeah, let's just leave it here, and I've already run this data in my another account. So in the end, it will look like this. So everybody can see, right? So how many pipelines do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? We have 8 pipelines. And how many algorithms do you think we have here? How many algorithms did AutoAI try here? Can anybody guess? Two, right? So one is gradient boosting regressor and another is XGB regressor. It is nothing but XGBooster regressor. Okay. So how many pipelines do we have? 8 pipelines, right? In the end, which pipeline do you think the AutoAI selected? Eighth one, right? So let's just swap the views, and so this is the process that Auto have gone through. So first, what did it do? It just read the data set, right? So first, it just read the data set and you just split the data. So let's talk about splitting the data for now. So what will it do is, generally I'll just give you a rough view of it. So if the data is 100%, what it is going to do is, it is going to split 60, 20, and 20. So what do you think 60 is going to be? Testing data or training data? Yeah, training, right? So why 60% is training? So why do you think 60% is the training data? You cannot give a person a question paper of data and test their data with a textbook, right? Textbook of questions. Yeah, so what it is going to do is, it is going to use the 60% of data to train and the other 20% to test and the other 20% to test the test. Got it? It is like inception. So let me just repeat it again. So what it is going to do is, first it is going to take the 60% of the data to train and other 20% to test and the other 20% to test. What will it going to test in the end? So let me open the pane here. I'll explain it clearly what is going to happen. So yeah, so we have 100 rows. Yeah, 100. That's it. So 60 rows is for training, right? 20 is for testing. So generally after training, what will the testing see? So what is the use of testing here? To see how accurately the model is giving the outputs, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? So the 20% testing is to calculate how much accuracy, right? Yeah. So what do you think the other 20% is for? Yeah. What do you think the other 20% of the data is for? It is using for testing, but sometimes this testing is used for calculating overfitting and underfitting. Got it? So let me explain how can we use the test data to calculate overfitting and underfitting. Okay. So let me draw two graphs here. Okay. So let's assume this is our data. So what do you think the best fit regression for this data? Single linear regression or a polynomial regression? Yeah. Single variable regression or multivariable regression or polynomial regression. What do you think? Okay, polynomial. So let's just draw the line here, curve, polynomial. So polynomial, let us assume that polynomial is the best fit for this. So what are we going to do is, so this is the whole data that we are representing. So let's just draw the training data here. So let's assume that this is the training data. So what I'm going to fit here is a straight line. Okay, I'm going to fit a straight line here, and I'm also going to fit a curve. Just change the color. Okay, so the red one is the curve and the black one is the line, right? So for this, so I'm going to tell you how overfitting and underfitting happens, like how it will calculate, right? So in this graph, let us name the graph. This is 1 and this is 2, right? In second graph, so what is the data we are representing? Training or testing data? Training or testing data in the second graph? What do you think? It is training data. Okay, so in the second graph we are fitting the data, right? We are fitting the training data using a linear regression and a polynomial regression. So in between the linear and polynomial, in which one do you think the cost function is more, like more error? So which regression will have the more error? Linear, right? So this polynomial regression is going through many points. Okay, so this cost function value will be less. Okay, let us assume it is 0.1, and this cost function, let us assume it is 0.3, and let's assume this cost function is 0.2. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a graph. So here I'm going to plot the testing data. Okay, so let me plot the testing data here. Okay, so first let us draw the polynomial fitted curve here. Okay, right? Afterwards, let's draw the first. Let us compare between the polynomial. Okay, so if you see this one, so between the second graph and third graph, did the cost function increase or decrease? Yeah, between the polynomial regressor, what do you think the cost function, did it increase or decrease? Yeah, it the error rate, did the error increase or decrease? So the error rate increased, right? Because it is not going through many points, and the error rate has been increased because the distance between this point and the representative of that point, predicted and actual value, is more, right? Compared to these things. So this is the best example for overfitting. So if you overfit your data, so that if you overfit your data, this is the problem. It may be perfect for your training data, but for your testing data, it will give you a lot of error. But if I fit with this linear curves, linear curve, linear line and the curve, what will happen is the linear line will have more. Let me just compare between linear, polynomial and our curve, overfitted polynomial PO and our best fit curve PB. Okay, so what will happen in the end is the overfitted polynomial will have the greatest error rate, the linear will have the second greatest, and our curve will have the least error, right? So everybody understood about overfitting, how we are going to use the testing data for overfitting and underfitting, right? Yes or no? Understood? Is it clear? Yes, right? Okay. So that is what sometimes the 20% of the data is used. Okay. So what is the next part? After reading the training data, what are we going to do? We are going to pre-processing. So what does pre-process include? Yeah, no data is perfect, right? It may have null values, it may have uh, blank, it may have like null values or what do you call those, like overfitted values and all. So what are we going to do is we are going to replace the null values, or we are going to remove the rows with null values. Okay, or there is other thing called as dimensionality reduction. We'll talk about it later. So in this pre-processing part, what is going to happen is we are going to remove the null values or any what do you call, any error in the data. Okay, outliers. Outliers, we are also going to remove the outliers. What do you think outliers are? Does everybody know what an outlier is? Yes or no? Yes, so just let me give you an example. Okay, just let me draw a graph here, and this is the data. So this is the data. So which regression do you think that this data is best fit for? Linear, right? So a linear regression. Outliers are the data which will be around here. This will not contribute anything to your any learning part in your machine learning. There are deviations, right? So these will be not in, like these will not help you to find best fit line. this will more likely jeopardize your machine learning model. So these are called as outliers. Okay, understood? Yeah. So pre-processing is done. So what will you do after pre-processing? So generally in our project we are going to just draw a plot and see which regression is best, right? So AutoAI will also do the same thing. It will just select the algorithms which is better for this data. So in this for this data, what did it chooses? Gradient boosting regressor and XGB regressor. Okay. So what is happening here is, okay, so what is happening here is, first one is first it selected gradient boosting regress. So it directly pipeline one. I'm going to talk about pipelines again. So I'm just going to just show what is happening here. So after gradient boosting regressor, it is going to create a model. And for this pipeline one, we are going to have some error value, right? So after P1, it is going to add a hyperparameter optimization. I'll talk about hyperparameter optimization and feature engineering after this. Don't worry about it. So it is doing hyperparameter optimization and a new pipeline. Pipeline, this is the other model, P2. Okay, after hyper, for P3, what is it adding? It is adding a feature engineering, right? So P3 is done. So P3 is another model. So after that, it is adding again hyperparameter optimization and it is getting P4. So we have 4 models here. Yeah, after this, it is going to select XGB regressor. Oh, so after selecting that, it will create a new model, which is nothing but pipeline 5. So after that, it is going to add hyperparameter optimization. So you can, by intuition, you can tell, right, what is going to happen after that. So yeah, so after hyperparameter optimization, P6 will happen. After that, we are going to add feature engineering for P7. After that, again, hyperparameter optimization for P8. So in the end, how many models do you think we have to work with? How many models are there here in the end? Can anybody guess how many models are there here? 8, right? 8 models. So let's just see each model here. So let's just go to pipeline 1. What is happening in pipeline 1 here? Only gradient boosting regressor, right? In pipeline 1. Let's just select the pipeline 1. So gradient boosting regressor, in this regressor, we are going to use decision trees. I don't think we have enough time to talk about that regressor. It will take a whole class. So let me just say what is that regressor is. It just uses decision trees. That's it. Okay. 1 minute. Okay. So yeah. So what are these? RMSE, R square. What do you think these are? Can anybody tell me what are these? Yes or no? So these are your error calculation. These are your cost functions, right? So it is using multiple cost functions, root mean squared error and R square and all. So these are the scores of your, these are the values of your cost function. So we'll go to this model information. It will give you the number of features, the time, and the what are we going to predict, price, right? So everybody is understanding? Yes or no? Everybody is with me, right? It is clear, right? Good. So after this, feature importance. So what do you think feature importance means? Yeah. What do you think feature importance means? So feature importance is nothing but how much this feature is going to contribute to the outcome. Got it? So here average area income, the contribution is 0.45. So the average area income is the biggest contributor for your model. After that, it comes the average housing, average area housing age and area population. and area number. Okay, and after this, so what feature is giving zero contribution? Can anybody guess? Yeah, what feature is giving the least contribution? Average area number, right? I think you people are not able to see that. This is nothing but average area number, 0. These values are correlation between the area population and your price column. Got it? This is nothing but a heat map. I'll just open the Jupyter notebook. You'll get a clear idea if I show that. Okay, so let me just open this. So you can see this, right? You can see this heat map, right? So the heat map between price, and area population is the value is 0.8, right? Minus 0.8. So see, the value is minus 0.8. So do you think we can take this column off? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, we cannot take this column because even the effect is negative, still this column is affecting your outcome, right? As long as the column is contributing something, even if it is positive or negative, it is important. So even the negative values large, you should not take that column out. So each and yeah, if it is close to 0, you can take it out. But if the negative value is more, you should not take it out. Take it out. Okay, got it, everyone? Yes or no? Even the value is negative, you shouldn't take it out. It depends on how close it is to 0. Got it? Okay. So let's just go to yeah. Pipeline 1 is done. So in pipeline 1, we did not use any feature engineering, right? We didn't use anything in pipeline 1. None. We did not use hyperparameter optimization or feature engineering. None. So what? So the RMSE is large, right? The RMSE compared to other pipelines, it is one of the largest RMSE values, right? Good. Good. So we'll just go to pipeline 2 here. So what is happening in pipeline 2? We'll see. So these are your cost functions, and this is your model information as usual, and this is your feature importance. It is the same, right? So what is the difference between the pipeline 1 and pipeline 2? Yeah, what do you think the difference is? We are using hyperparameter optimization. So what do you think hyperparameter optimization is? Yeah, what do you think hyperparameter optimization is? So I'll just explain you vaguely because this is a big topic. I'll just give you a slight idea of what is happening. Okay, so everybody's with me till here, right? No doubts, right? Yes or no? Good. So what is hyperparameter optimization is? So let me just draw a square. So let's just assume that this is a two-dimensional plotting, a two-dimensional graph. This is X and this is Y. Okay. So I'm going to plot some values here. Okay. So let us assume that this is a classification data. So one data is black and the other data is red. Okay. So generally in classification, what are you going to do is you are going to, yeah, Tej Pratap, you are right. Okay. So what in classification, what are we going to do? Generally what I'm just talking generally, you don't have to go to specific algorithm. We are going to use some lines to differentiate, right? So if I use lines to differentiate, so this will be the output. So if I get a new point, we are going to find the distance and which group does that point belong. Because like if I just give you a new point here, we are just going to calculate the distance and find it, right? So in these, like if the data is like this, it is a little bit hard. Let us assume that there is also a red point here. So it is a little bit hard, right? So to classify here, yeah, we are not talking about which classification algorithm to use. So generally this is a little bit hard. So in hyperparameter optimization, what are we going to do is we are going to project this two-dimensional data into 3 dimensions or higher dimensions. Okay. So what is the next dimension we can draw using this after 2D, 3D, right? So I am going to draw a cube here. 1 minute. Let me just draw a cube. Okay. This is a cube. So what are we going to do is we are going to use some function theta and you're going to increase the dimensions and the data is projected into a 3-dimensional plot. So what is going to happen is, so let me divide this cube into 2 parts. 2 parts. So after using, I'm going to use a function, a specific function. What is going to happen after using this function is all the black data will be above the black line and all the red data will be below the red line. So is it easy, right? After increasing the dimension, it is a little bit easy to differentiate between 2 data points, and even if a new data point comes, we can just directly calculate the distance and we can classify easily, right? Yes or no? Is the first 2D easy or the second 3D easy? What do you think? Third, 3 dimension is easy, right? So this is just a simple example of how hyperparameter optimization does, right? What it does. Okay, understood everyone? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, good. So everybody understood what is hyperparameter optimization. So we are in second pipeline, right? So in pipeline 2, we have used hyperparameter optimization, but still our RMSE got larger. So error rate got larger. It did not reduce, right? So what are we going to do? The third pipeline, we are going to use, what did we use in a third pipeline? Let me just go back. So in a third pipeline, we have used, see, the gradient boosting regressor and XGB regressor, both are will be using decision trees, okay? So in pipeline 3, we have used gradient boosting regressor and hyperparameter optimization and feature engineering. So feature engineering, what happens in feature engineering? I'll just show you. What will happen is, let's assume that we have 4 columns of data, column 1 C1, C2, C3 and C4, right? So C4 is what we are going to predict. So in this feature engineering, what is going to happen is we are going to create 1 minute. So we are going to create new columns deriving from this old columns. So let me assume that new column is C2 minus C1. So we are going to find the correlation between C2 minus C1 and C4. If the correlation is large and the correlation of C1 and C2 compared to C2 minus C1, if the correlation of C2 minus C1 is large, we are going to prefer this column to this column. Understood everyone? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, right? So you understand what is feature engineering? You are going to use some uh, operations on columns so that the model will have a better what do you call, a better prediction. Okay, got it? So let's just see what is happening in the third pipeline. It is the same, the cost functions and model information, and we have a new feature here, feature transformation. So what happened? So in new feature 7, what did we do? We are going to first we did the product. You can see this one, right? So product of average area of rooms and average area of incomes, and we are going to product between this area number of rooms and area income and area population and area housing, and we are going to sum. Got it? We are going to sum between these two columns. Got it? Everybody understood, right? So let's go to feature importance. So are these features the columns that we have given in our data set? Yes or no? Are these features the columns that we have given? No, right? These are the new features. If you just hover on this 7, you can see this, right? The transformer. You can see what operations did we do on this. Okay, so we got 7 new features, in which the new feature 7 has the highest correlation rate. It is 0.55, and the least one is feature number 5. Okay, we have feature number 1, area population. As usual, it is not contributing much. Feature 5, feature 3, feature 4, and everything is contributing to some extent, right? So even if you take out these columns, there is it is not much of a deal. Got it? So everybody understood, right? What is feature engineering and what is hyperparameter optimization, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? No. Mayank, did you not understand the topics hyperparameter optimization? Okay, good. Done. So we are done with pipeline 3, right? So pipeline 4, what is happening? It is the same. First hyperparameter optimization, then feature engineering, and then we are doing again hyperparameter optimization. So so on. So we can see this dashboard here, and we can tell what happened in this pipelines, right? So I have explained about hyperparameter and feature engineering. So you can just guess what is happening here, right? Yes or no? Or should I explain all the pipelines? Yeah, how to know which algorithm to regressor to use is. So in auto AI, this is totally dependent on machine. Okay, this is one of so this what algorithm to choose, the machine will choose by its own. But generally, if you have taken a project and if you want to select which regressor to use, you have libraries in Python to use that use to like to tell which algorithm to use. So that is the first part. And second thing is for experienced person, if they see the plots and all, they can by intuition they can tell which algorithm to use. So because we are not experienced, we have to use third party libraries to tell which regressor to use, regressor or classification. Yeah, understood, Tej? It is clear? Yes or no? Yeah, good. So so these hyperparameter and feature engineering are used here after our algorithms. So in the end, we have 8 pipelines. So the 8th pipeline with XGB regressor and performing first hyperparameter, then feature engineering, then hyperparameter is having the least error rate. So we are going to select that. Okay, everybody understood? So why are we choosing the 8th pipeline? Because the RMSE value is low. Okay, yes or no? Everybody is with me, right? Yes. And the thing is, I think we can also have a Node-RED UI for this Auto AI project. So I'll talk about it after this. So what? Let's just talk about pros and cons of Auto AI. Okay. 1 minute. Okay, let's just talk about pros and cons here. So what is the pro of auto AI? What do you think a good thing about auto AI is? Yeah, automation, right? No code, there is no need for human involvement, right? So that is a pro point. So what is the con? So let me repeat the pro. There is no human meddling. Everything is automatic. That is a pro. So can anybody guess what is the con? Con is the same. There is no human interaction and everything is automated. That is also a con because, yeah, the thing is, auto AI has limited number of models. Okay, compared to a expert data scientist, auto AI will not be able to surpass him. So for now, auto is not capable of replacing any data scientist. Okay, so that is the pros and cons are the same in some way. So there is no validation of data. So what do you think validation of data is? So let me just talk about that. So let me just create a new data set here. Let us have name and roll number. Okay, name, roll number, and height. Okay, so I'll just write in the name column 12. In the roll number column, I'll write name. In the height column, I'll write uh, rocket. Here I'll write plane. Roll number here I'll write X, X, X. Name I'll write 15. So if I show you this data, or even if I show a child this data, is he going to think that this data makes a sense? Makes a little bit sense? So you people tell me, does this make does this data make sense? Yes or no? No, right? So, but if I give this data to auto AI, it will, however, create a model. It will not. Sometimes it will not care about validation. So that is a problem with auto AI. Validation is data valid. No validation of data is also a problem of auto AI. You got it right? Yes or no? Everybody is with me? Understood how auto AI works? Yes or no? Yes, right? One minute. So yeah. So we are done with auto AI. I'm going to show how to turn this auto AI into code. Okay. You can select, you can originate code from any of the pipeline. So I'm selecting the 8th pipeline because it is the best fit. I'm just clicking on save as and notebook. You can save it as model and you can also save it as notebook. Okay, I'm saving it as notebook. I'm selecting WN1 notebook. Save. Create. So yeah, it is done. Okay, so this is the code for your AutoAI experiment. Everybody understood till here?
Yeah. So let me just give a quick overview of the Node-RED that we have discussed till now. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So how do we go to Node-RED? We'll click on Cloud Foundry apps, and we have this here. Just click on the email/dev, and you have routes, right? First, we'll go to the Node-RED flow editor. Excuse me. Okay. Now that we are on our Node-RED flow editor, let me delete things that are not needed. Okay, fine. Yeah, we have a flow over here, right? So this flow corresponds to few things. The first thing, the form, which is where you will give all of the labels, and the names are your variables, and we will be using these variables later. Okay. And the first and the most important thing you have to remember is, if you are getting an error like your Node-RED dashboard is empty, you will have to click on this one. Okay. And you will see add new UI group over here. Click on this edit button, and you have tab here, and just give a name to your group. Okay. And we have an edit button again here. You'll click on edit and give some name to your tab. Okay. So if you have given everything properly, you will be able to see something like this: home page machine learning model, or home default, something like that. Okay. So that is your form node, where you will be able to take input from the user. Now the user has given the input, and they are all available on the Node-RED platform. What we have to do is, we have to take all of those variables, right? What we will do, we will first set all those variables to global. Okay. So this is how you set all the variables to global, and we will be able to use them in other function nodes as well. Okay. We will give the API key. The only thing you have to change from the ninth line is your API key. Okay. Before this, you will have, let us say, you will have around 10 to 12 options and all, and you will be able to set those values and all. Later, the only thing you have to change is this one. Okay, you will change the API key and click on done. Do not touch anything else. The first HTTP request node. Most of you are making a small mistake here. The URL that you are using here should be this. Okay. And this is the URL you will use. All of you have to use the same URL. So there is no need to touch this HTTP request node. If I give you this flow, you do not need to touch this. Okay. Just click on use authentication. Just select basic authentication and do not give any username and password. Why? Because we are trying to send all the headers, payload, and the API key to this URL, right? And this URL does not need any username and password. It only needs API key. If we have given API key, there is no need to give username and password. Okay. With the details we have given, this URL will generate a token. Okay. This token, we will use that token. We are just using that token somewhere, and we are giving instance ID. and we have the message header, right? All you have to do is you have to change the instance ID. Okay, fine. Now we have set few variables as global. We are all getting those variables now because we will be sending our variables along with the token. We'll make some changes to the token and uh, all of these variables along with the token to our machine learning model. Okay, so what do we need? We need fields and we need values. Okay, the common mistake I see here is you're only supplying it this way, and if you give only one square brace, the output, the error will be dimension mismatch. Input dimension required were 10 1, and the actual given were 10, something like that. Okay, for that to go away, just put another just enclose this in another I mean square braces. Okay, fine. So we have our token here, and we are sending this token using the message dot headers. Okay, that token will be used to generate some bearer authentication. Okay, so fine. We are also providing the instance ID, otherwise it will not be able to go to that specific machine learning model. Okay, instance ID is required to go to that particular machine learning model only. Suppose you have a plus account and you have many other machine learning models, and you want to go to only one machine learning model, right? So instance ID is for that. So this is all clear to you guys? Then we will all send the data. We'll send this all of this data, the token we've generated, and the instance ID, and all of these variables, and we'll put all these variables in a message.payload object, and we will send them to what? Where do we send them? We will send them to your scoring endpoint. Scoring endpoint is your API. Consider it as your API. You just give the scoring endpoint URL. Okay, this is the only HTTP request node where you will make changes. Okay, you will take this off and you will provide your scoring endpoint. And guys, remember, both the HTTP requests have to be made using a post method. Okay, post method. Done. Once this is done, we will try to fetch all the data that was given by the machine learning model. Okay, so for me, the result was in message.payload.value 00. This is where my result was. Okay, but you don't know where your result is, right? So for that, what you will do, you will just drag and drop a debug node, connect the second HTTP request node. Okay, that I have done it already here. You can see I have a debug node. Let me take off the connection between this function node. So let us see where am I getting this result. Okay, let me go to the UI. Let me give some random values. Okay, yeah, I have given some random values, right? Okay, I've got an error. Okay, deployment doesn't. Okay, this is another error. If you get such an error, deployment does not exist. That means the scoring endpoint you have given here is no longer valid. It is not existed. Okay, so for that, what you have to do is you have to go to your services, go to Watson Studio. click on get started. In the meanwhile, what you'll do, Mohan, is try to open your cloud, machine learning model and the Node-RED flow. Okay, we'll see what's the issue. Okay, so if Charan, are you here? Which project have we created that day? Was it USA housing data? Yes, Charan is not here. Okay. Let us go to USA housing data and see if there is a scoring endpoint. Okay. Okay. Just click on assets here if you do not know how to locate your. Okay. So just click on assets and go to your notebook file here. Click on it. Okay, the scoring endpoint is not in this one. Okay, fine. Guys, I do not have to show that to you guys, right? Is it necessary that I have to show you? Have to create that and all? No, it's okay, right? Okay, okay, Tanmay, I got your message. I'm looking into it already. Okay, so this is Tanmay. This is only for you. Okay, guys, just remember this is only for Tanmay. I don't know from where it started, but few people started giving input underscore values, I guess, input fields or input values, I guess. So because that is working for them, I know. For you, it may not be working. I want you to use the same syntax here that I've used. It's not syntax, the same values I've used here. Okay. Your message.payload contains two things. One is fields and the other one is values. Okay. No input fields, no input values, nothing like that. I'll give this flow. So if you got the same, if you've used the same thing, you will not get message.payload does not contain the required field input data. Okay. We'll see what is happening again. Anyway, I'll try to uh, promote you as panelist and I'll see what's happening to you guys. Okay. Um, if we connect the data, we'll be able to see what's coming here and we'll be able to make the prediction. Okay, that is how it happens in general. Okay, now what I want to see is I'll just stop my screen share and I'll give control to you guys and I'll promote you as panelists and see what errors you have. So Mohan, I'm starting with you. I'm promoting you as panelist. In the meanwhile, Tanmay and others, if you have any questions regarding this, make sure that you open your cloud IBM cloud account, Watson Studio and Node-RED Flow. It will be easy for me. Okay. Mayank Mohan, I've made you as panelist. So are you able to start a screen share?
Sorry, just opening. So can you please?
Okay. Yeah. In the meanwhile, I'll promote someone as a panelist. Okay.
Yeah.
So Tanmay, you said you have some same doubt, right? I mean, some other doubt. I'm promoting you as a panelist. Now you try to show me your error, okay? Tanmay, are you able to start a screen share now, or do you have any other problem? Yeah. Invalid payload. Scoring payload does not contain the required field input data. Okay, fine. So, can you give me remote control? I'll request a remote control. Wait. So, do you get something like, yeah, okay. Now I have the remote control, and let us see from where this is coming. Okay. Scoring payload does not contain the required field input data. Okay. So that was your required field. Okay. So which means what? You have to use input data only. Okay. So guys, has anybody done it already? Just have anybody used? I do not remember how to use input data as a syntax. So someone used input data. In that input data, you will have fields and values. Has someone used it? Just answer in the chat. Me and not me kind of things. Okay. Tanmay, I'll come back to you. Let me look up on the syntax because I have not used it. Okay. Anyway, I got the syntax. No, do not stop the share. I got the syntax. Wait. It is input data, and we supply input data as an array. Okay, which will have fields and values. I hope the syntax is correct, and let us see if we get any result. Okay. Okay, I guess I've submitted it. Okay, we had an error here. Okay, the syntax was wrong. It's not a big deal, guys. Let me try to fix it up. That was fields. We have values here. Okay, got it. I'll try for the next 1 to 2 minutes, Tanmay. If it is not coming, I'll give chance to others and see if we can solve theirs or not. And if your error is not solved by uh, now, I'll try to respond to you on Slack right after this webinar. Okay. We have a comma over there and values. Yes, it should work now. Okay. Now is it correct? Okay. Just deploy and see. Yeah. Make sure everything is matching. Okay. Just make sure everything is matching. Every open should be closed. Just make sure that. Okay. Fields is closed. Values is closed. And input data is it closed? Do we have 3? We should have 3 at the end. Okay. Yeah. Close it. No, not there. Just move a little here. So this was your values, and now we are closing the input data here. And the input data is closed, and then what do we have to close? We have to close fields and we have to close input data. Okay, I mean the message dot payload. Okay. Let us see if the error still exists or not. Okay, I'll come back to you. Okay, I'll come back to you, Tanmay Goel. I'll see because I'm not able to see and the control is not proper as well. I'll come back to you. Okay, just stop the screen share. I'll move you to attendees. Mayank, are you ready with your screen share? Will you be able to do that? And
Yes, sir.
in the meanwhile, Tanmay Goel, you try to, Avinash is suggesting something. Try to add those things and all. Okay. Let's first go to Node-RED, Mayank Mohan. Okay, everything is fine. Let us see the dashboard. Show me the output. Okay, you're getting some the value in minus, right? Okay. So did you give the same values in your model and see that you're getting proper responses? Okay. Fine, you got the proper responses. Fine. Now, can you just confirm that you have used the same scoring endpoint in your Node-RED? Did you deploy this model? Just show me the scoring endpoint of the model you have shown me. Yeah, this one. No, just go to that model. Yeah, scroll down. So this is your scoring endpoint, right? Yeah, you have scoring endpoint here. Copy it, just copy it. You might have done it already. I'm just trying to eliminate the possibility. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Tanmay, is it coming now? Did you change the values? Yeah, fine. Okay, very, very good. So yeah, Mayank, let's go to the previous tab, the flow editor tab. Okay, go to this dashboard thing here. No. The dashboard one on top. Uh, Let me access some remote control to you. Okay. I guess you have to give the permission in settings, Mayank. It will ask you to restart and all, I guess. So fine, because you're using Mac, I think it will ask you to. Okay, fine, I got fine. Okay, so let me delete this connection. Tanmay Goel, I'll come back to you anyway. Okay, let us see. Dashboard. Uh, just to confirm the obvious, um, why was it commented out?
Sir, previously I using population also, so I remove it.
Okay, your model does not accept population now.
No,
What
sir.
are all the fields your model accepts? Let me see. So just can you, if you scroll it, it is faster. Can you just scroll and show me what all things? Your model accepts. These are the things.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me compare everything. Okay.
Yes.
Year status, adult mortality, alcohol, percentage expenditure. Hepatitis B, measles, BMI under 5 deaths. Polio, total expenditure, diphtheria. Steroids. GDP, thinness 1 to 19, 5 to 9, income composition, schooling. Thinness 1 to 9, thinness 5 to 9, income composition, schooling. Okay. Was not there, fine. These are all given in the order, right? The same order, right?
Yes, sir.
So we'll do one thing. We'll make the same changes that we've done to Goel and see what kind of thing we'll get. Can you scroll horizontally? Take me to the end. Yeah. Okay, fine. Mayank, I'll personally take your credentials and I'll see what to do. Okay,
Yes.
because everything appears to be correct, and in fact, everything is correct. So I'll take your credentials and see what to do. Okay,
Okay, sir.
and at the end, you have to remove one flower brace. Okay. Sorry.
Sir, while I changing GDPs and
Okay.
GDP value, it comes positive.
The same thing happens in the model as well.
No, sir.
No, it should not happen like that. Whatever your node-RED is, it should only act as a UI, and it should not interfere with the predictions that are made by the model. Okay. Okay, I'll see what to do. I'll personally take your credentials and all and see what to do. Okay. So Mayank, Mohan, I'm changing your role to attendees now. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Tanmay, the previous one was solved, but you're getting another error in getting from endpoint, not showing output on web. Okay, let me just quickly make you an attendee and see what's the error. Okay. I've made you the panelist now. Just start screen sharing. Are you able to start screen share, Tanmay? Yeah. Okay, now just show me what kind of error you are getting. Clear everything in the dashboard. Okay. Now show me the error. Go to your Node-RED UI. Okay, just submit those values. Okay, now come back to your flow editor. Okay. Now wait. See, you got the values, right? Okay. Just allow some this remote access. Okay. Now you got the values, right? But the values are not where you are expecting. Okay, this is not from message.payload.array of 00, but rather you are getting those values from somewhere else. Okay, so let me change that. I guess I've clicked on done, but your screen froze. Okay, let's now deploy it. Tanmay, is it deployed? I'm not able to see because I guess your screen froze. Okay, it's not deployed yet. Okay, okay, fine. If it is deployed, can you go to your Node-RED dashboard? If it, yeah, you got the prediction now, right? Very good. So, is it done? Can I move you to attendees? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So, guys, do we have any other questions related to Node-RED? Okay. What all things need to be in the demo video, right? So we expect. So I'll show you guys. Wait. Just give me a second. Just give me a second, guys. I'll show it to you. So yeah, we want these things in your, okay, this is an AI one. Fine. We want the video demonstration should, the video should have your demonstration of your project. Okay, how did you do the project and the platform used, services used, and input and output from your UI. Okay, the platform used is your smart interns platform. The services used are your machine, I mean IBM cloud services like machine learning service and the Node-RED and all. Okay, and finally give some input uh, in your to your machine learning model and try to get the output. Okay, just do a screen recording kind of thing. Okay, only those things we need in the video demonstration. We might ask you for an kind of a feedback video and all, that will be later, but right now this is the mandatory thing. Okay, you have to upload a video demonstration. Guys, do we have any doubts? Can we end the session? So Manish Pandey, what's your doubt? Okay, Anushka. So let me come back. Okay. So we have a doubt here. Sir, how to write example in the input? Like if user click on average population, then we provide an example of how the value would look like. So how to create that? Okay. So, okay, there is no direct way to do that in Node-RED, Anushka, but you can do something similar. I'll show you how what will it look like. Okay, so let us say you have a form node, right? Keep this form node like this, and if you want to add all such things, what you have to do is you have to create your own UI from HTML. But right now, I suggest using text input and maybe not the text input. Try to give try to create a function node here and dump all the values to your uh, text node. Like see, it should have text output. It should be.